You woke up this morning, went through your routine, maybe had your coffee, and thought you were fine. But here's what's strange. Your body has been trying to tell you something for months, maybe years, and every single day you've been answering it the same way. I'm just tired, it's just stress, it's nothing. What if it isn't nothing? What if the little things you've completely normalized, the way you sleep, the way you breathe, even the way you stand, are actually quiet signals from a body that's running out of patience? Stay with me, because some of what I'm about to show you is going to feel uncomfortably familiar. And if this is your first time here, subscribe right now. We put out videos like this every week, and you won't want to miss the next one. Let's start with something so common that almost nobody questions it anymore. Sign number 1. You wake up tired, even after a full night of sleep. You set your alarm for 8 hours. You actually slept those 8 hours, and you still wake up feeling like you barely closed your eyes. Most people blame it on stress, or their mattress, or just not being a morning person, and so they pour another cup of coffee and move on. But here's the thing, nobody tells you. The quantity of sleep and the quality of sleep are completely different things, and your body knows the difference even when you pretend not to. When you wake up tired consistently, not occasionally, but as your normal baseline, it often means your body didn't get enough time in the deep, restorative stages of sleep. The ones where your brain actually clears out metabolic waste, the ones where your muscles repair. The ones where your immune system does most of its heavy work. And what interrupts those stages? More things than you'd think. Breathing issues, even mild ones you've never noticed, can pull you out of deep sleep dozens of times per night without ever fully waking you up. You don't remember it happening. You just feel it in the morning. Blood sugar fluctuations can do it too. If you had something sweet or heavy before bed, your body might be spiking and crashing through the night, nudging you out of restoration mode every time. And here's the part that quietly builds over time. When you don't get enough deep sleep, your body's ability to regulate stress hormones starts to slip, which makes it harder to sleep deeply the next night, which makes the next morning worse, which increases your stress, which makes sleep worse again. It's a loop, and most people live inside it for years, thinking it's just who they are. You don't realize this, but chronic fatigue on waking, when it becomes your normal, is one of the earliest signs that something deeper in your body is out of balance. Not broken, not dramatic, just quietly, consistently off. Sign number 2. You always lean on one side of your body. Here's one I want you to check right now while you're watching this. How are you sitting? Or if you're standing, where is most of your weight? If you're like the majority of people, you're not centered, you're shifted. One hip carrying more, one shoulder slightly lower. Maybe you always cross the same leg. Maybe you always sleep on the same side. Maybe you've been doing this so long you don't even notice it anymore. We treat this like a habit, a preference, something quirky and meaningless. But your body is not random. When it consistently favors one side, it's almost always compensating for something. It could be a structural imbalance. One hip sitting slightly higher than the other, something that often starts in childhood and gets reinforced by the way we sit at desks, the way we carry bags, the way we look at our phones. It could be a muscle that's chronically overworked on one side and chronically underused on the other, which sounds minor until you realize that over years, this creates uneven wear on your joints, your knees, your hips, your lower back. And here's the hidden connection most people never make. Chronic, one-sided tension in the body almost always travels upward. The hip that's higher starts pulling on the lower back. The lower back tightening starts pulling on the shoulder. The shoulder rising starts affecting the neck, and suddenly you have headaches on one side of your head, and you have no idea why. You don't realize this, but your tight left shoulder that won't go away might not be about your shoulder at all. Sign number 3. You breathe through your mouth without realizing it. This one is going to sound almost too simple to matter, but I need you to think about it honestly. Do you know how you breathe? Like, right now, is your mouth open or closed? Most people have no idea. Mouth breathing has become so normalized that entire generations do it without questioning it for a second. Here's what's strange, though. Your nose exists specifically to breathe through. It filters air, warms it, humidifies it, and, this part is remarkable, it produces a compound called nitric oxide, which helps dilate blood vessels and improves oxygen delivery to your cells. Your mouth does none of that. When you breathe chronically through your mouth, especially at night, you're delivering raw, unfiltered, cold air directly to your lungs. Your oxygen uptake becomes less efficient. Your airways can become irritated. And the tissues at the back of your throat, without the moisture regulation your nose provides, can swell slightly, which ironically makes nighttime breathing even harder. Mouth breathing during sleep is also one of the biggest undiagnosed contributors to poor sleep quality in adults. And here's the connection that will make you stop and think. Many people who grind their teeth at night are also mouth breathers. The jaw clenches partly as a response to the airway narrowing. So that headache you wake up with, that jaw soreness you chalk up to sleeping weird, it may have started with how you breathe. Check yourself. Right now. Lips together, breathing through the nose. If that feels uncomfortable or unusual, that's information worth paying attention to. By the way, if this is making you think of someone you know, share this with them. And if you're finding it useful, a like helps more people find this video. We're just getting started. Sign number 4, you grind or clench your teeth. Speaking of which, let's go deeper on that one. Most people who grind their teeth find out from a dentist, not from noticing it themselves, because it happens at night, silently, while you sleep. But some people clench during the day, too, while concentrating, while driving, while scrolling through their phones, and never notice because they've been doing it for so long it feels like nothing. Your dentist calls it bruxism. But what I want to talk about isn't the dental damage. It's what's happening underneath it. Teeth grinding is almost always connected to one of 3 things: unprocessed stress that your nervous system is trying to discharge while you sleep, airway issues that cause your jaw to tense as your body fights to keep the throat open, or a nervous system that's stuck in low-level fight-or-flight mode even when you think you're relaxed. That last one is the one people resist the most, because most people believe that if they're not actively anxious, if they're going to work, watching TV, living their life, then their nervous system must be fine. But the nervous system doesn't work like that. It can be running a quiet background program of tension and alertness that you never consciously feel. And one of the places it shows up is in your jaw. The jaw is one of the most tension-holding muscles in the human body. And a jaw that's chronically tight isn't just wearing down your teeth. It's affecting your neck, your skull, the pressure behind your eyes. Some chronic headaches that people treat with ibuprofen for years trace directly back to jaw tension they never addressed. You don't realize this, but the way your jaw feels right now, is it relaxed? Are your teeth touching? They shouldn't be unless you're chewing or speaking, tells you something real about your baseline stress level. Sign number 5, pains that come and go and you've stopped questioning. Here's a question. How many recurring pains have you just accepted? That lower back thing that flares up every few weeks. The knee that aches when it's cold, the neck that gets stiff whenever you're stressed, the headache that shows up every Sunday. We have a remarkable ability to categorize these things as just how my body is, especially when they're not constant. Because when something goes away, we feel like we can stop worrying about it. But intermittent pain is actually one of the most important signals your body sends, precisely because of its pattern. Pain that comes back in the same place, under similar conditions, isn't random. It's your body saying that something in that area hasn't actually healed. It's just quiet right now. The conditions that triggered it before are still there. The underlying imbalance, the restriction, the compensation pattern, the tension, it's waiting. And here's where the gradual escalation happens, which almost nobody talks about. When you have recurring pain in one area and ignore it long enough, your body starts compensating. Other muscles take over. Other joints adjust. Other movement patterns develop, unconsciously, to avoid triggering the painful area. And months or years later, you start getting pain somewhere completely new. Your hip, when the original issue was your foot. Your shoulder, when the original issue was your upper back. The new pain feels unrelated. But the thread runs all the way back to the thing you stopped questioning 2 years ago. You don't realize this, but some of the pain you're treating today is an echo of a signal you ignored much earlier. Sign number 6, uneven wear on your shoes. This one is almost poetic in how literally it writes itself. Look at the soles of your shoes, not the tops, the bottoms. Where is the rubber worn down the most? If it's uneven, if one heel is more worn than the other, if the outside of one foot hits harder, if the toe area on one shoe shows more stress, you're looking at a physical record of how your body has been moving for the past year. Most people just buy new shoes. But uneven shoe wear is one of the most honest external reflections of what's happening structurally in your body. It tells you which foot you favor, which side you push off harder, whether your gait is balanced or compensated. And the ripple effects go up the entire chain. Foot mechanics influence ankle mechanics, which influence knee alignment, which influence hip positioning, which influence how the lower back loads, which influences everything above it. A podiatrist can look at your shoe soles and tell you things about your body that you'd be startled to hear, not because they're guessing, but because your shoes have been recording data about you every single day. You don't realize this, but you've been carrying the evidence around with you this whole time. Sign number 7. You're always the cold one in the room. Almost everyone knows someone like this. Maybe you are this person. It doesn't matter what the temperature is. You're always a little colder than everyone else. You keep a blanket nearby when others are comfortable. Your hands and feet are often cold to the touch, even in warm environments. It's usually laughed off as a personality quirk. She's always cold. He runs cold. But persistent coldness, especially in the extremities, is your circulatory system communicating with you. When the blood vessels in your hands and feet constrict more than they should in response to temperature or stress, it's often a sign that circulation is working harder than it needs to just to maintain baseline. It can be connected to iron levels, to thyroid function that's slightly off, to a nervous system that's keeping the peripheral vessels in mild constriction as part of an ongoing low-level stress response. And the fascinating connection here, the same circulatory system that keeps your hands cold is the one delivering oxygen and nutrients to every organ in your body. When peripheral circulation is sluggish, it's rarely isolated. It tends to show up in other quiet ways too. Slower recovery from exercise, slightly more brain fog than feels right, a tendency to feel fatigue sooner than you'd expect. None of these things individually send you to a doctor. Together, they paint something more interesting. Here's what I want you to sit with for a second. Every single thing I've described in this video, waking up exhausted, breathing wrong, clenching your jaw, favoring one side, dismissing recurring pain, wearing your shoes unevenly, always being cold, none of these things feel serious in the moment. That's exactly the point. Your body rarely sends emergencies first. It sends whispers. And when the whispers are ignored long enough, it sends slightly louder whispers, and then slightly louder ones after that. We live in a culture that's extremely good at teaching us to push through, to normalize discomfort, to assume that if it isn't debilitating, it isn't a problem. And so we spend years, sometimes decades, in a kind of quiet dysfunction that we've simply named normal. The question isn't whether these signs mean something catastrophic is happening. Most of the time, they don't. The question is whether you've been so busy managing your days that you've stopped actually listening to what's underneath them. Your body has been talking this whole time. The real question is, have you been willing to hear it? I'm not going to tell you what to do with any of this. You already know. But I'll say this. The people who catch things early aren't the ones who panicked. They're the ones who got quiet enough to pay attention, who stopped normalizing the things that didn't feel quite right, who decided that it's probably nothing wasn't good enough anymore. Take stock, not with fear, with curiosity. Because your body is one of the most sophisticated systems ever designed, and it has been on your side this entire time. It just needs you to listen. If something in this video made you stop and think, drop it in the comments. Even just one word. I read every single one, and you'd be surprised how often one comment helps someone else realize something about themselves. And if this felt useful, a like takes 2 seconds and means more than you know. There's a video appearing on your screen right now that continues this conversation. Same calm, same depth, same, wait, that's me energy. I think you'll want to see it. I'll see you there.